This is, we're going to talk soccer here, which is, okay, a little bit of a bias. I love soccer. My sons play it. Saturday mornings is watching NBC Sports and Rebecca Lowe and Kyle Martino and all the rest break down the action. So, this was a tough summer for guys like me who love this game and really, really want the U.S. to achieve at the World Cup level, at the men's World Cup level, in at least the same manner as the women have achieved, right? And it was tough because the team failed to qualify for the World Cup this year. It was knocked out by Trinidad and Tobago in the qualifying rounds. And on the day of the championship, won by France, was a front page story in the New York Times on a participation drop in soccer of about 600,000, according to the Sports and Fitness Industry Association, over the past couple of years. But the good news is that the seeds of systems level reform are starting to take hold. From every crisis is born an opportunity. And in this session, top officials from the U.S. Soccer Federation and the French Football Federation are here to share ideas on how to build a system that promotes both development and participation. How do we align these two? Can we train more coaches and make more room for late bloomers, kids from lower income homes, and free play, as France did in transforming its youth model several decades ago? They weren't always the high performing national team that you saw this summer. So I'd like to bring up Ludovic Debreu and Nico. Ludovic is the head of institutional affairs for the French Football Federation. He designed the youth system, or helped design the youth system that supported the development of players like Kylian Mbappe, who was one of the breakout stars of the World Cup this year, as well as other national team players. And he played professionally a few years ago.
Long time ago.
Long time ago, okay. And next to him we have Nico Romain, who is the Chief Sport Development Officer for U.S. Soccer, and he has revamped youth coaching for U.S. Soccer, done a terrific job in pushing that envelope forward. And he's the former head of education for the Dutch Soccer Federation. So welcome to you both. Let's start with you, Ludovic. How satisfying was it to win this year's World Cup?
Yeah, of course, there are moments that are better than the other, of course. I think it's symbolic of our system, even if a World Cup it's each 4 years. But since there were two big changes during the mid-90s, it was the Bosman rulings, who has totally opened wide the transfer market in Europe, and also the reform of the Champions League, who has totally changed the model of the top European club. And since this time, there were 6 World Cup, and we were finalists at least 3 times for 2 victories, and the same for the Euro. And we are also the first nation for exporting players in big championships, and the most valuable also nation for transfer players. But it's always the same over and over. It's to have better players, you need better coach. It's not a name, it's a result.
Yeah, but it all came together. So talk to us about what changes were made, what key components were put in place with the youth model, and how that helped develop the base of players who we saw play so beautifully this summer.
I think that the first thing to understand is that in France the model is through clubs. So we have 16,000 clubs. They are all registered at the federation. And they are open to everybody, no matter your incomes. Okay, it's very important to say this. And the second key component is...
Is it free, or what's the cost of playing at the community level?
In fact, there are some helps. Even if you have no money, you can make, perhaps if you have 2 or 3 children, they are allowed to be in the club. It's not a problem at all, in fact. Okay, it's really open to everybody, with no matter your incomes. And the second key component, I think it's on the pedagogy. In France, the pedagogy is based, I know it's so French to say that, on questioning and questioning and feedback, but it's very important to say that the coach must use self-questioning on himself, and he proposed to the player situation, and it's to the player to find solution, and it's to the coach to help him to find solution, and always in the interest of the team, in fact. So I think it's the most important thing to say about the key component is in pedagogy and the role of the coach.
And we were just talking in the green room. One of the key aspects is asking kids what they want, or coaches are really encouraged to listen to the players and what they want out of the experience. Is that right?
Yeah, exactly. And for this, of course, you need for the coach to be convinced, and to the player also to be convinced. But someone who is convinced to do something, he go further and further and further. There is a moment where it's easier and easier. And in fact, all the pedagogy in Clairefontaine, but it's the same in grassroots, is on feedback with the players. There is a moment for the coach, for example, to talk in our competition, what we call competition. We really take care about competition because the problem are the consequences of the competition. Competition is good, but it's not all, of course. At 12 years old, for example, you start the game, and after 15 minutes, there is a break for the coach, okay, to talk. And after this half time, 15 minutes, another time, a break for the coach.
And they're quiet the rest of the time.
Yeah, exactly. We say there is no remote for the players, like when you are behind your TV.
Yeah.
Let them play.
Yeah, that's interesting. I also, and I've written about it in my book, Game On, but the French system also works very hard to keep the late bloomer involved. The kid who's a little bit smaller, maybe does not have the same, the best birth date, they're 10 months. Can you talk about what you do to make sure that those kids stay in the game?
Yeah. When we have started to study the data on the matter, it was just after the World Cup '98, and we were world champion. And at this moment in the technical department, there are small voices who say, "Oh, we have a problem. We are world champion." No, we have a problem because in the academies, more than 50% of the players at age 15 or 16, they were from January, February, or March. And after, there is no importance at all. So we have experimented different methods. We have tried the X-ray, for example, for the wrist. But
you X-ray their hands to make sure, at the elite level for the 13 and 14-year-olds, you're not taking the kids who are just physically ahead of the other kids.
But now it's forbidden, so we have different tests. And the idea is to know where is the player. The most important, the critical phase, it's between 11, of course, and 15 years old, because you can have players who they have two head difference, and they have in fact the same age. So who is going to play? The big guy or the small one? And it's something, so we have changed in our scouting, we have changed also the frame of the competition to be sure that all the late bloomers are not forbidden. And in Russia, when we were world champion, it's exactly the same proportion of players by trimester. It's not a name. It's only a tool to give you an idea about your scouting. If all the players are from 3 months and
from January, February,
March, exactly.
Then you're missing all the talent that exists at the end, born at the end of the year.
Yeah, and there is exactly the same proportion of children who are born all over the months. Okay.
Yeah.
We'll look for the first.
That's interesting. So Nico, I want to get your thoughts. What do you like about the French system, and what is U.S. soccer doing to, improve the game? Both participation and development challenges here in the U.S.
So first, congrats. Great performance. I say that with a little bit of pain in my heart because we weren't there. So no, what I really like is their emphasis on developed and educated coaches. I think that's key. That's vital. So you can directly connect that with participation, because when you've got an educated coach, that person will develop long life participants in the sport. So I really like that one, and I think it's still underestimated that it's teaching. And even when you're a volunteer or a professional, it is about teaching. So, and to teach you need competencies. So that's also when you're bringing your kids to a school, you expect the teacher, to do education. It's not that the teacher can say, I was a good student, so I will be a good teacher. And actually that is what happened when you looked at soccer. I was a good soccer player, so I will be a good coach. And that's not how it is. So you need these competencies. So what we did is we really looked at our grassroots licenses and we changed them. We changed them looking at the different game models, and these are related to the ages of players, but also to make them more accessible. So we've got these online courses, 2 hours, and we've got these in-person courses. And to give them the basics, and these basics are actually also focused on, let's look at it from a holistic way. It's not only looking at training sessions, but also how do you lead players? How do you connect with players? How do you give attention to all your players? And then, then I would say then the circle is closed, because attention is really important when you're talking about keeping these kids into the game.
Mm-hmm. So how critical we talk about great coaches in our society, it's usually at the national team level, the professional level, or otherwise. How important is that coach of the child who is 6 to 8 years old? If that child has a bad coach, it seems to me a couple things can happen. One, they're just going to leave the game and they're done. Or number two, maybe they're going to learn the game the wrong way and now you've got to fix bad habits. So what is your thought on, the importance of that coach and how to get it right in this country where it's large, where people don't want to be told what to do, mandates can be extremely tough. How do we tackle that?
So again, it's key. It's key to have a good educated coach. Also, when you're looking at the basic level and also these young ages. So what are we doing? So actually, when we're looking how we want to, let's say, change the game in the US, it's about supporting the member, impact the athlete, and serve the fan. So when you're looking at impact the athlete, then it's at all ages. Big country. So then it's about supporting the members. So US Soccer is a member-driven organization. We've got 108 members. And actually, to have a direct influence on these athletes, it's impossible for the federation. So we have to collaborate with our members. And actually, what we are doing is we are educating instructors who are a part of these members. And by 2022, we want to have thousands of instructors. And they are, divided over the whole country, so that these coaches can do their education really close to their environment. And we think that's really important because, again, a large country, and the only way to change, to make a shift when you're looking at player development is to collaborate with our members.
Mm-hmm. So one of the impressive features of the French national team, and it goes back to the team that won the World Cup prior to that, is you had a lot of immigrants on the team. I mean, it was. Did that just happen by accident, or has there been an intentional approach to making sure the kids from the lower income and the immigrant communities have access to the game, and then ultimately moving through the pipeline?
It was already the same situation 60 years ago, and perhaps more. In fact, at this time there were players from Polish descent, for example, or North African descent, and after there were Italian, Spanish, or African. It's not a new situation. It's all the French players are French. They are born in France, or they have started to play at 6 in our clubs. And the idea is everybody is on the same starting line, okay? And just give a chance, in fact, to all the young players, no matter their incomes, no matter where their parents or grandparents came from, And it's the same situation from 60 years in France, and there is knowledge and there is talent everywhere. It's not an issue, even in US. There's no problem with this. So it's not a new situation. It's the French football.
Yeah, gotcha. And Nico, so how do you think about that here? I mean, one of the assets we have in the U.S. is a large and growing Hispanic community. Culturally, there's a lot of love for soccer in there. There's a lot of technical talent. Some of it is sticking through the game, but a lot of kids from those often lower income homes don't have access to the club environments where the parents are writing the $3,000 checks and so forth. So how do you look at that challenge, and where do you see the opportunity to make room for more Latino kids in this country?
Yeah, that is a big challenge, and actually, again, when you look at the size of the country, so when I started over here, they told me, so don't think, that East is the same as the West. Don't think that North is the same as the South. So actually, that's also why, again, we really want to involve our members to grow participation over there, because they know their environments. So they can really, come up with these programs that are really customized to these environments. So one of the initiatives we've got is an Innovate to Grow fund. So actually that's 3 million, and it's there for the members. So when they create a program, an innovation program, and that's more or less focused on participation, and also when you're looking at these underserved communities, then we are going to fund that. And actually the follow-up is to share these best practices. And again, to make it, think global, but act more or less local.
Interesting. I want to talk about playing time. So when I wrote about the French system in my book 10 years ago, you didn't have this new provision in place, but I guess a couple of years ago, you took a new perspective on playing time, equal playing time, and through a certain age. Can you talk to us about that and why you put in that place?
The idea is no matter the age, there is a time for game, challenges, and educational. You start by the educational to go to football, in fact. So at 6 years old, it's 40 minutes games and challenges, and there is 3-a-side or 4-a-side, no substitute, no goalkeeper, okay? Equal time for everybody. At 8, it's several teams on the same pitch. There is no ranking, say on the same place. It's 50 minutes games and challenges, and you start about 15 minutes of educational. In fact, we have a national educational plan. It's a tool. We have a toolkit for the clubs to help them to build their project. In fact, and it's around the rules of life. So it's rules of life is the health, citizenship, and the third one it's ecology, environment, and rule of play, the fair play, rule of the game, fair play, the respect of referee, and the culture of football. So we always use these tools in our training session or games. So at 8 years old, it's 3 or 4 teams on the same place. It's ranking only for a day, okay? And it's 65 minutes of game and challenges. Challenges, it could be skills, okay, it's a kind of thing. And at 12 years old, it's a more traditional competition, home away, but no promotion, no relegation. And it's in this category, there is the breaking coach, the break coach, to speak, in fact, okay, after 15 minutes.
Okay. Oh, yeah. So in other words, coaches can only talk every.
Yeah.
They're supposed to be quiet.
During exactly.
Breaks.
The problem with the competition, of course, is the consequences, and it's related, in fact, to what is a coach. What does it mean to be a coach? And is it someone, we consider that it's someone who has received at least an information. So he's able to take care safely of the children, to lead an animated training session, and if needed, to lead the team in competition, a very soft competition. The competition, it's after. Mm-hmm. Okay, it's very important. The second point is how he's recognized as a good coach. By winning games in 12 years old competition. So who is going to play? Big boy, late bloomer. Mm-hmm. Okay? And the third point is how is this valorization? Is it a hobby? Is it a part of his incomes? So who is going to play? Mm-hmm. It's the same. And I think the most important is the fourth, is he's a coach, but for the interest of who? The interest of the youth, his own interest, the interest of the clubs. The school, the university, the association, whatever you want. And in fact, the interest could be opposite. Mm-hmm. So it's the reason why we think that the coach education plan must solve, in fact, all those issues.
Yeah, absolutely. It's almost like just an insistence on development over winning at the very early ages, which coaches can easily fall into this. I mean, it sounds like you, and maybe you could talk about this, Nico, as well. I mean, how do we, these coaches who think their job is to help their team of 8-year-olds or 10-year-olds win on Saturday, they really think that's the goal. That's how they're measured by success. Yeah. As opposed to keeping the kid in the game, having them develop, turning into a lifelong love of the sport, turning into a fan of the sport, all the good stuff that comes from. How do we turn that around? Or is it impossible because this is America and we just are stuck on winning and everything?
No. we are, but that's, winning is a part of the sport.
Yeah.
So let's not deny that. Yes. You play to win.
Competition is good.
But actually, when you're looking at these coaches, their focus must be development. So actually, and I'm quite optimistic because I see a change in our paradigm shift, at being more player-centered. So in the past we were more coach-centered, and now we are more player-centered. Mm-hmm. So I see that change, but actually it has to do with the lens. We are looking at soccer clubs and players, and sometimes there's a conflict. Because when you're looking at a club and players based on business and economical reasons, that's different when you're looking at players because of player development and long participants into the sport. So actually, to have that shared lens, that's how we are going to change, I would say.
A shared lens, but what about consistent standard? I mean, clear and consistent standards. So parents, for instance, can know which clubs are abiding by best practices. Is there, for community clubs in France, are those standards articulated and enforced? Are there supports for it? And I'd like to get your thought, Nico, about is that something we could do here in the U.S.?
Yep.
Yeah, in France, in the national club level, it's compulsory. In fact, the system, you need a special coach education. But for grassroots at the French Football Federation, we give the clubs, we call it label. In fact, it's the recognition of the fact.
Certificate.
Yeah, certificate, yeah. And because the standards are, for example, you need 2 coaches for 10 players, etc. Those kinds of coaches with this special education. And in fact, it's not compulsory, but when the clubs receive this certificate, you put it on the wall just for the parents to see that we are recognized by the federation. And it's a way to help the clubs to build their project by, of course, and the cornerstone, of course, is the coach education.
Gotcha. Very quickly, 30 seconds.
So 30 seconds.
Well, yeah.
So,
can we do that?
Oh, there go my 30 seconds.
No, very good.
So standards and certification. That's actually also something. So we introduced the player development initiatives. We did that more or less in 2015, and we implemented them in 2017. That's also looking at small-sided games, but also playing time for players. So that's one of the standards. And our future plans are, to also create that certification, so that parents can look at, okay, this club is meeting the standards, and that's also based on the certification of the federation. So it's comparable with the French Federation.
Excellent, excellent. So I'd like to actually, Slido time. Pull out your phones if you can. We're going to run through a couple questions. I'm obviously the guy who likes to use Slido here at this conference. So, go to, Project Play. You guys know how to do this now, right? And on a scale of 1 to 5, how optimistic are you that the U.S. can win a men's World Cup? I got to make that clear because the women do just fine, don't they? A men's World Cup. Now let's see how the voting turns out. Well, I can't see, so I don't know what it's saying. Are we seeing results up there? Not yet. Yes. Ah. Is it positive? It's fluctuating. Okay. All right. Well, that's a good sense of things. Now let me ask you the second question on a scale of 1 to 5 again. How important is youth development and participation in winning that World Cup, which we would all love to see happen? They're not showing it, so I guess youth development doesn't matter. They don't want us to reveal the answer. It's up now. 60s. Well, terrific. Yeah, I just wanted to end that way because I think we should end it on an optimistic note. I think I'd like to thank both of you for being part of the panel here and really look forward to what the U.S. Soccer Federation and its affiliate bodies of soccer engaged in the youth space are going to be doing moving forward. So again, a round of applause for our panelists.